April 3rd, 1974. The sun rose on a day that looked like any other, but in the basement of the National Storms Forecast Center, meteorologists were looking at a satellite loop that shouldn't have been possible. 3 air masses were converging in a way that looked less like weather and more like a battlefield. By midnight, 148 tornadoes would strike, and 315 people would be dead, and the science of meteorology would be born in the wreckage. This isn't just a story about tornadoes. This is about how we survived the unthinkable. This is the 1974 super outbreak. To understand the scale, we have to look at the atmosphere. We had a record-breaking low-pressure system moving out of the Rockies. To the south, the Gulf of Mexico was pumping in tropical moisture at record levels. To its north, a freezing Siberian air mass was diving south. The key here was helicity. The wind wasn't just blowing, it was turning. At the surface, it blew from the south, and at 10,000 feet, it screamed from the west. This creates a horizontal rolling effect in the sky, as seen here on the chart. When the thunderstorm updraft hits that roll of air, it tilts its vertical. Suddenly, the entire cloud is spinning. This is the birth of a supercell. A supercell is a highly organized, long-lived thunderstorm defined by a deep, persistently rotating updraft known as a mesocyclone. These storms are responsible for strong to violent tornadoes and are the most dangerous. Now, you have to remember that in 1974, there was no Doppler radar. Meteorologists had no way of seeing inside the cloud. They were literally taking hooks on radar and tracing them on paper with pencils, trying to keep track of a storm that was moving faster than the highway speed limit. Now, one of the worst things about this particular outbreak is that the National Weather Service was underpredicting how bad it would be. Many people thought it would just be, a simple outbreak. A couple tornadoes, a few warnings, nothing. The outbreak didn't start up north. It started in the south, and around 1 p.m., the first violent tornado struck the town of Morris, Alabama, killing 11 people. But the true horror was saved for the small town of Brandenburg. This deadly tornado initially touched down in Breckinridge County, causing weak damage to the area, likely EF1 or EF2 damage to the trees and the shrubs around the area. However, quickly intensified to an EF4, and at this point it moved into Meade County, destroying many well-anchored and well-built homes in that area. The town of Brandenburg, Kentucky was in its way, and by the time it reached Brandenburg, it was at EF5 strength. At 4 p.m., the Brandenburg, Kentucky tornado tore through downtown Brandenburg. This tornado didn't just destroy the buildings, it completely erased them, eviscerated them, completely destroyed them off the map. This was the moment that the National Weather Service realized that this wasn't a normal outbreak. This was a massacre. The damage on Brandenburg was nothing short of insane. The damage looked like this and this. Dr. Ted Fujita would later come to examine the tornado's damage, and he described it as unimaginable destruction. So, he originally gave this tornado an F6 rating. Oh hey, Editor Saul here. So I wanted to mention something real quick. So, content creator Saul forgot to point out that back in 1974, there wasn't 6 ratings on the Fujita scale. In fact, there was 12. Okay? Scientists thought that tornadoes could go at 700 miles an hour, which is the speed of sound. Newsflash, they can't. That is inconceivable with the way Earth works and how its land is shaped, and yeah. If you want to get really deep into the science, go look it up. This tornado got demoted to an F5 a few years later. That's right, content creator Saul. Anyways, so back to the documentary now. Unfortunately, the Brandenburg, Kentucky tornado would not be the only F6 of the day. 4:40 p.m., one of the most infamous tornadoes in American history touched down just outside the city of Xenia, Ohio. This tornado would later go on to claim 32 lives, injure 1,000 others, and leave 10,000 people homeless. Jeff Louderback, a resident of Xenia, Ohio, stated what it really looked like before the tornado hit. The cotton-like clouds and rays of sunshine on this warm spring day was replaced by a dark, ominous cloud with a green tint to the southwest sky. The tornado touches down at 4:40 p.m. on farmland southwest of Xenia. It then crosses into the Arrowhead subdivision, likely at EF4 strength. Then the tornado crosses into downtown Xenia. At EF5 strength, the tornado completely eviscerates all the buildings there. This tornado had top wind speeds of over 305 miles an hour and completely leveled half of the city. The tornado still wasn't done though, as it continued many miles past Xenia. After hitting multiple towns, the tornado tracks northeast of town, lasting 39 minutes on the ground. After lasting 39 minutes on the ground, the Xenia, Ohio tornado was finally over. In the end, this tornado ended up killing 32 people, injuring 1,000 others, leaving 10,000 homeless, and costing over $1.6 billion, making it one of the most costliest tornadoes in the entire world. This tornado was the single worst tornado for over 25 years, until the Bridge Creek Moore tornado in 1999. This tornado outbreak didn't just stop when the sun went down. It continued going, and this made tornadoes way more deadly. Now, tornadoes, or nocturnal tornadoes, are much more dangerous for two reasons. Number one, you're sleeping, and obviously you can't see them, so they're much more dangerous at night. Before we go on any further, there is just one more man that I need to talk about. If you are even a little bit interested in tornadoes and meteorology, you have most likely heard of this person. Known to others as Mr. Tornado, it is Dr. Ted Fujita. Dr. Tetsuya Fujita was born on October 23, 1920. At a young age, he spent most of his time studying the nuclear bombs dropped on Japan in 1945 and the impact that they had on people. However, as he grew older, he was more fascinated with tornadoes and the impact that those had on people. In 1971, Mr. Fujita published the well-known F scale, or the Fujita scale. By the way, if you want to learn more about the Fujita scale, I've got a video on my YouTube channel that explains all about it. But don't watch that one yet. Finish this one first. Anyways, in 1971, he published the Fujita scale. However, many people were doubtful of him for this. They thought his scale wouldn't work or wasn't accurate. So he needed a large tornadic event that would get most of the people's attention to prove that it would work. And in 1974, he began to see the ingredients of a large tornadic event lining up. While Mr. Fujita's scale was good, it wasn't perfect. For example, he rated a few tornadoes F6s as they should have been F5s, or F5s as they should have been F4s. No, back in 74, there was 12 ratings on the F scale, okay? So meteorologists still had a lot of things to figure out. Luckily, however, his scale did work good enough to where we are able to get most of the strength of tornadoes down in just one attempt. By the morning of April 4th, 1974, the super outbreak was finally starting to end. The massive squall lines in the isolated supercells were beginning to dissipate. There are 149 tornadoes, 315 people dead, and over $5 billion worth of damages. The outbreak was finally over. So this is a sketch of all the confirmed tornadoes made by Dr. Ted Fujita. And look at this, dude. You can really see how high of an impact that this event had on the United States. I also just want to emphasize how insanely rare this is. Something like this has only been seen 2 times in history. This outbreak and the 2011 super outbreak, which I'll cover in another video. But, for example, in the past 12 years, we've had 1 EF5 tornado. Just 1. On this day alone, there was 7 EF5 tornadoes on 1 day. Think about that for a second. But yeah, that pretty much concludes our video about the 1974 super outbreak. Stay tuned for another video. And remember, we're unlocking the secrets of the sky, one spin at a time.